the Honda Navi, a jack of all trades and actually an ace of many. I'm really, really happy I bought this bike. There is probably no current option on the entire motorcycle market in the United States and or Canada that provides as much value as the Honda Navi. Arguably. Considering maintenance costs, the efficiency of the engine and insurance costs, overall, even though there are more efficient mini-moto bikes at Honda, well, it depends on how far you ultimately end up driving it, but the Honda Navi may be the cheapest bike to run of all motorcycles in this entire market, because there's essentially, other than changing the oil and eventually the tires and the chain belt, which are all super cheap compared to other bikes, despite that this gets less mileage than advertised. Honda still claims that this gets 110. It only gets about 70. Sometimes worse than that, sometimes a little better, depending upon where you're riding it. Still, cost of ownership total, it may still be the cheapest choice, best budget choice in the entire market. And the reason I say an ace of many is because everything that this bike is made to do, it does at a better value point and as well as you would need it to versus any other motorcycle you could buy. This bike only goes up to 50 miles per hour. There's a hard ceiling. It's not going to give you anything more. But to the extent you only ride it on roads that need that speed, you don't need to spend more money or get a more powerful bike. This is enough. It's incredibly easy to maneuver. It's incredibly comfortable to ride. One of the most best hidden benefits of this is, obviously, everyone knows it's an automatic. But because you ride it, you're on it centered like a motorcycle. And this is obviously not what it's advertised as. Nothing cuts through suburban and urban traffic like this thing, because there's no gears you have to worry about, and it's an automatic scooter engine in there, but you're able to turn it and maneuver it with your torso and your lower body, and on your lower body, your waist as well, as a motorcycle. So it cuts like a hot knife through butter. If you are somewhere where there's a ton of traffic, again, you don't need a powerful bike for that. You need a bike that's nimble and small, that you're not going to trip yourself up on. And this is it. The Honda Navi, it really is great. It's also one of the cutest motor vehicles out there. It's like, when I first saw it, it reminded me of the first time I got a Game Boy Advance. It's like I don't know why the Game Boy Advance comes to mind. It must have to do with the type of plastic on this. Almost everything on this thing's plastic, but again, it's fine. It's enough. Yeah, so what? It's an AC headlight. Who cares? So what if it's budget in terms of like the coverings of the wheel and stuff? I never got mud on, I never had any problem with mud or anything, because look, it's just built well. It's also incredibly beginner friendly because the brakes are connected. So it doesn't matter if you screw up and this is your first bike, because you're going to brake no matter what you hit, because it's all connected to each other. It has a center stand, default. It has the Kickstarter. I love the Kickstarter on this thing. I probably use the electric start maybe only like 4 or 5 times when I purposely cut the bike's power in traffic due to a really long traffic light. I just didn't want to burn gas. And then I use it to restart back up. But the Kickstart, it's so easy. It starts right up. There's the filter. Barely needs to do anything with that. I cleaned it like once or twice only, and I put a lot of miles on this. This bike is at 2,675 miles. So I feel like I've ridden this, enough. The furthest I rode this on trip back and forth about 70 miles away, 70 miles back. Very easy. You have the switch here between standing in reserve, back up in reserve, and then God, this storage. This storage is fantastic. Well, obviously it's not watertight to the point you can submerge it. Anything you put in here is not going to get wet. And this thing is really deep, this storage container. I've used this for so many grocery runs, and it fits a full gallon of milk, full loaf of bread, 12 eggs. You might even be able to squirrel in some cold cuts or yogurts. Or as some other people have reviewed, you can fit roughly 22 beer cans in there. It's great. You can, this seat is incredibly comfortable, and yeah, I know it looks silly, but you can have 2 people ride this thing. It has the foot pegs, and they're good foot pegs. Look, they got something to them. People, and people love this bike. Everyone who sees it thinks it's electric, because it looks like it might be, right? Maybe because the storage thing looks like it's a battery. Yeah, shock could be better, but it also could be worse. It's good enough. The lighter you are as a human being riding this, obviously you're going to get a little bit better mileage, better speed, and the shock will be more adequate for you. The exhaust coming out of this thing, there's no filter on the exhaust. It's just, just a motorcycle. That's one of the reasons they don't sell it in India anymore, because they got stricter emission standards there. What else? I remember one thing I do like about this thing is it's so huge. In the winter, when my hands get cold, I would literally hover my hand over this, and I just warm up my hands over that, hang off the side of it. This is my first bike, and it has allowed me to gain the confidence in terms of just riding and focus on riding that I needed to get as a beginner. I got my license many years before I bought the bike, and then I had a paper license. I didn't get a motorcycle because I was doing stuff, and this bike, I was originally, I saw the the Ruckus, and I was about to consider getting the Ruckus, and then this thing hit, and I was like, oh, this is so great. And actually, it's a funny thing, the value of this is too good. I don't understand what Honda's thinking, because the Ruckus and the Metropolitan cost twice as much, and they're worse. They're slower. They don't really get you better mileage, and they're just worse options. I don't know why anyone, if you're considering a Ruckus, I get it, unless you are dying to have that shape, to be the hipster on the block, don't do it. Buy this. It doesn't make sense. And I don't understand what if Honda was smart. What Honda would do is they make a 125cc version of this, although apparently in Europe there's a new 125cc automatic engine. If they were to introduce that into the Navi, pop this thing up $1,000 in cost and hold it there, not mess with everybody by raising it $100 a year, they could probably get everyone who bought a Honda Navi to buy it again. Another point on the Honda Navi is that it is incredibly light. So if you take it, even on the routes, and there's any sort of truck traffic near you, and they're going with any speed, they probably, you'll feel it. The wind pressure from traffic around you will push you a little bit on this, depending on how fast it's going. I did take this on the highways. I probably shouldn't have, but I wanted to see how it was. To the extent you are staying in the right lane and there's no one, being aggressive around you, you can do it. But yeah, obviously you probably don't want to do that for any long distances. It's a great bike. I would recommend it to anyone as their first bike. I would also recommend it to anyone who's considering something just for around town or for a commute roughly within 15 miles, where for sure you're not going to go on an interstate, but you might do a combination of local traffic, and the 45 and under, mid-tier expressways or parkway kind of stuff. This thing works. I'm just gonna go over a few points. That's the right brake handle. This here is the foot. There. This is the choke over here. Obviously, you bring it down. This bike is great. I kickstart in winter all the time. It works fine in winter. Obviously, you need to choke it, and you might need to kick it a few more times, and or use this. One thing that's really noticeable about it is once the engine warms up, once it gets going good and hot, it loves to get warmed up, because once it does, you can feel it. This engine purrs a little bit. It'll even pull you forward. It has this cute little thing it does where it'll yank you forward a little bit. And then it's like it's a little mini rotation of the, and then it'll kind of settle back into you. And when it gets hotter, you gain like an extra mile per hour. When the engine warms up, you can get the full 50, maybe 51 on flat ground. In the summertime, if the road temperature is hot and this bike's warmed up, that's when you might be able to get stock 51 miles per hour. But the when it's cold, when once you've started it, the bike's still cold, and even if you open a wide open throttle, it groans on you, and it takes. It'll maybe get you to maybe 45 tops when it's still cold. It has to warm up before it gets to the full 50. And also, when you're wide open throttle on this, it is true. People have commented you can literally watch the fuel gauge slowly tick down when you're wide open throttle on this. Wide open throttle is the Achilles heel of the fuel efficiency of the Honda Navi, hands down. That's because it's carbureted. It's a carbureted bike. That's the territory you're in. But it's also why it's such a, you're able to get it at such a value point. If this thing was, again, if this was a 125 fuel injected, they could probably get everyone who's bought one of these so far to upgrade. They don't have to do anything. They'd literally keep the body, everything the same, and just switch out the current carbureted, what is it? I think it's Activa based. This is, it's from India, assembled in Mexico. Honda's taking a profit at every step of the way of that. I'm sure this thing's probably cost all of, what, $400 US dollars to make this. Even at their MSRP point, they're making a killing, and then God knows, between the taxes you pay on and all that. But that's the case with all motorcycles, that part of it. So that's not the fault of the Navi. That's just how the supply chain and how the current motorcycle market works. But it's really cute. There's not a day where I rode on this and didn't feel good about it. It smiles all the way. From the moment I sat on it, I knew this was the right choice for me. And this is a bike that could be the right choice for anyone. Anyone who wants to get a motorcycle, but is, and you're good to get a license, but when you really think about it, the idea of having a Ninja or a Harley, it's just too psychological overwhelming. Listen, I can be as nervous and insecure as anybody else. You want to be safe, right? It's a hard sell, especially if if you're not single and you have a wife or kids, to even get the motorcycle. This is a good, safe way to start. And if you want to go to something else later, you can. You don't have to, though. This could be your first and last bike, which seems a little silly given that, sort of budget point it is, but it's enough. And I mean that in the best way possible. There's a famous saying that, perfect is the enemy of good. And the Honda Navi is good. Good in the truest sense of the word. It's genuinely a good value. It's safe. It's simple. When you ride it, you can focus on the road and nothing else. And that's good. That's what you should be doing. You want to go to where you want to go. You want to do it relatively efficiently, relatively quickly, and most importantly, safely. And this bike will check those boxes. And it's light. And you can put it on a trailer hitch, whether it's with your RV or, the back of, I have a Honda CRV. You can just throw it on the back. It's not a big deal. If you have a pickup truck, just roll it up into the bed. This is, I don't want to call it a toy because it's better than a toy. But I really think this is a great value. And anyone who wants to do door dashing or food delivery services, this is really, really good potential option. You can switch it. There's an OEM rear rack that can be added to this. There's also the OEM front headlight structure you can put on there, neither of which are really necessary for most people probably, although it looks cooler obviously. Get this bike if you're not sure even about motorcycling in general, but you kind of want to do it. Get this. And ironically, it's cheaper than some e-bikes out there, and it's a little faster, and it's fuel efficient enough. You're not destroying the environment of the world by riding this bike. It would be nice if this was a hybrid. That would also be an interesting thing if Honda would consider doing that. Somehow use the space that's available in this and make a hybrid version of this. This is already an automatic to begin with, so why not? I mean, you have the body, you have the You have the frame here. There's this extra space where you have the storage. Why not make part of that a battery and have it run hybrid? I don't know, maybe you know I'm not technical enough. It doesn't they've already probably thought of that and they don't care. I don't know, but Honda Navi, it's a great bike, and it really is a jack of all trades and an ace of many. So please consider it, and I hope if you do get it, you ride safely and you really like it. And to come clean at the end of this review, I do plan to get a different bike and trade this one in. Not because I don't like it, but because I would like to be able to drive a little bit further away. Not much further, but to do that consistently at a little bit faster and more efficiently in terms of miles per gallon. This one, really its weakest point is distance. The seat is comfortable. It's not a comfort issue, but the tank on this is only 0.9. It's not a full gallon. So you really, either you're going to be carrying additional gas canisters or you're going to be stopping. And that's not really a big deal, but it does start to get a little annoying to be riding this and then somewhat of a distance, and you know, you just feel like it starts to become grueling because the bike it's not getting you there in time, and that's not fun. But within your usual commute, it's the opposite. So the only thing this is not really great for is touring. But it could be your partner in touring if you put it on, you know, the trailer hitch of your bike or whatever, and then you know your mobile home, your RV. And then this is just how you get around where you get to where you're going anyway, because what's bringing you there is not the Navi itself. So do keep that in mind. It's just one thing that the Navi is not made for. The Navi is the best value for what it is made for. But for things it's not made for, don't expect it to be able to magically do it, because it won't. That's not a bad thing. That's not the Navi's fault. So please consider this bike as your first, and if you're interested when I get the other new bike, I will share that with you as well. If this is interesting to you, please leave a comment. If you love your Honda Navi, I love mine. Tell me how much you love it, what you think's good at its strongest points, what you think are not its strongest points. Or if you had a Navi and you decided to move up to something else. I shouldn't say up. You moved over to something else. What did you move up to? Okay, saying up. What did you move over to? Or, you know, there's a lot of return riders. You know, a lot of people, because this is automatic, they might be disabled, or they can't really use their left hand anymore, or they can't do the clutch anymore. This is a great option for people like that, and I know I've seen comments about that as well online. So if you've watched this whole review, thank you so much, and I hope if you're considering the Navi, if there's one motorcycle not to be intimidated by, this is it, and it'll bring you a lot of smiles. And that's what Honda's true value, you know, what their sales point has been in this market has always been, you know, you meet the nicest people on Honda, right? That's how they got the Cub going back in the day. And I think the Navi is probably the truest embodiment of that original stance Honda had. I don't know if it's actually, even to be honest, I don't even think that's their intent with this. I think this is, they are, because they can't sell in India anymore due to the regulations, etc., and or that because it doesn't get good enough mileage, they are dumping. Well, I don't say dumping it, but they still have this production line there, and they realize that there's other places that this is a good solution for. It was already in South America, and then somebody was smart enough to bring this here right as the pandemic hit. Which is the greatest timing ever, because everything, and that's when the inflation exploded, and it's still going on. You know, this made this an even better value proposition. And to their credit, they haven't raised the price on this since it came out in 2022. And if they're smart, they won't, because this is getting people into the Honda brand. It's getting people into motorcycling, and it's creating a feeder line of people who might buy another Honda at some point. It was a really great decision for them to bring it here, but I don't think it was because it was out of the old school 50s, 1960s You meet the friendliest people. I believe there's much more logistics based and capitalistic thought behind bringing this here, but that doesn't negate the point that the experience of this and what this is doing in terms of getting people onto motorcycles is something in the same spirit of what that was. And I that's how I felt when I first, got on this. And I said, you know what? This is just, it's a little silly fun. It just puts a smile on your face. And it's cute, it's cool, it does what it does. And when you pull up on it, the little kids will be like, hey, look at that, hey daddy, and or other people will be like, oh cool, that's a cool little bike. I like the way that looks, and it's thank you, and and everyone's smiling at each other. This is not a bike where you pull up and you look like a jerk. It's a bike you pull up and it's like, oh look, that's cool little, where'd you get that? Like what is that? Is that electric? Or oh, that's cool, that's storage. People like it. It's not imposing, and it's practical, and people appreciate that even if they don't ride motorcycles. I think that's what the Navi name itself means, right? The friendly, or people are goodness in India. So keep that in mind. This could be the right bike for anybody, because that's what it's about.